Welcome to Portal Intel, Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. That's Justin Wells. Coach Dub's got to do something with the family. So we'll be holding it down today, talking a little bit about what's going on with the Longhorns in the transfer portal. Have mostly seen departures at this point, but there is a little bit of intel on some names Texas is interested in. And it's a weird little process they have to go to, but there is a process nonetheless. Here's a process you should go through. You should go to InsideTexas.com. You should use that QR code that's in the top left of the screen. You should sign up for just $1. Use that first link in our description. Again, use that QR code by Hook'em's Head right there. Go join Inside Texas. Get involved with the best Texas Longhorns website. All the different information you need throughout a very important month of December. Don't forget, there is a football game in about 2 weeks, but there's a lot of other things going on, and we got that all being tracked over at InsideTexas.com. Justin, I think last time we were able to do this show, I don't remember the exact timeline, but pretty much everybody except for one player had entered the portal or announced intentions to enter the portal from Texas. And the one that we got to go through, so we say what's up to Jose and Kurt and Roaster, is Leongo Lafau. And that was one where, yeah, it caught a lot of people by surprise. You're losing a really good player, but it really makes not only the future look a little bit shaky, but also the present. And I think RT, when he and I were talking about it the other day, like this is one of the first times that Texas really lost a player that it probably did not want to see depart. And, you know, we're still trying to figure out what's going on, but still a loss for the Texas defense in the present and for the future.
Yeah, most guys that you see enter the transfer portal from Texas were either told to, strongly suggested to, or come to a gigantic agreement to. Most of them. Every cycle, though, you're going to have a couple that deflect that they don't want leaving. And I don't think they wanted Leongo Lafau to leave. I mean, you're trying to replace a 2-year starter now, and you're going to probably have to pay more in the portal just to do it. And I've had a ton of questions about it. The only thing I can surmise about Leongo is that it was kind of a combination of a lot of little things. I think notably he wanted to be closer to home. That's why I think you could see him on the West Coast. You could see him at a place like BYU potentially. I know he wanted to be the man, and he had to do a lot of rotational stuff this year when they brought in Brad Spence and the ascension of Ty Anthony Smith. It cost him quite a bit of snaps, and I don't know how much he really likes the scheme. He loves Texas. He loved the people and the coaches, but I think the scheme had, in his eyes, maybe it held him back a little bit, and so it just seems like he needs a fresh start. And I think that's where we're at when Texas loses a guy like this. Sometimes they just need a new place. They need a fresh beginning. And so that's the thing with Leongo. But man, now you got to go pay. Now you're going to have to go find a start. You know, it's like, hey, we're looking for a linebacker in the portal. Well, now you're looking for a 2-year starter in the portal. Now you're looking for a guy that you might have to ante up some coin for. Look, Ty Anthony Smith is going to be the best linebacker on campus next year, most likely. And he was already climbing that ladder anyway. Elijah Bo Barnes is going to be a dude. You're talking about a dude in the 230 range already. He'll be a major contributor next year. But it's linebacker, it's inside linebacker. These positions are not easy to find. And so now Texas and PK and Johnny Nansen and Steve Sarkisian find themselves looking for a replacement for a 2-year starter that they did not expect to lose.
I think just thinking
it was not a Texas decision, Carol. Sorry.
That's fine. One of the things that I'm thinking about with, you know, that position is they've tried to bring some guys in at that spot. You'll remember, you know, I think when Brad Spence was brought in, there was a thought maybe he'd be playing a lot more Mike than maybe that buck position.
Right.
When they brought in Kendrick Blackshire, I don't know what the whole process was there, but maybe the thought was, you know, big body, you can put him in the middle and hope you get something there. So they've tried with linebacker before, and it has not worked out quite yet.
No.
In the future, you know, you do have not only Rocky Cummings, but also Tyler Atkinson. And Ian Boyd wrote a great article this morning about how, look, those are great players, great athletes, but we don't know how long it's going to take for them to become great linebackers, because Tyler Atkinson is about 210 pounds, and he's more athlete than football player. And Rocky Cummings kind of more athlete than football player as well. So in the future, coming from this class, you may have, like, again, I've been saying this on and on and on, day one athletes, but maybe not day one football players at linebacker quite yet. So you're going to have to go find somebody. And then when we can kind of look at it in the bowl game perspective to understand what Texas has, and I wrote about this, you're going to have Ty Anthony Smith. You can probably slide Brad Spence into Trey Moore's role.
Yeah, you can.
A lot of different, a lot of buck for the most part. But he can do what Smith was doing as long as it's more Sam and not as much the end of year Mike stuff he was doing in Anthony Hill's spot. You're going to have to see what you got in Bo Barnes, though. And I'm excited. That this is one of those things that fans, when we talk about the bowl game, it's like, all right, young guys get to play. Young guys get to play. They haven't been playing for a reason, but now they're playing for a reason. And, Barnes was a 5-star. He's number 1 linebacker. I think this is something that, they use early bowl practices in order to give younger players some reps, let some of the older guys get a little bit of, I don't want to say shake the rust off, but get little
healthy. They let the older guys kind of recover.
Right. And so now those reps are going to be super valuable for Barnes, not only for him for dictating his own future, but just so the coaches know what they have. And, no matter what, Barnes could have a 20 tackle game. They're still going to have to go to the portal just from a straight up numbers perspective. But this is going to be very, very telling for them just to see what they have at that position and what they got in Bo Barnes.
Most people from this, since this has come out last at least 24, 48 hours, everyone wants to assume Tyler Atkinson is going to come in and play immediately. And people, you do really need to go to Ian Boyd's article at InsideTexas.com. He writes it up really well. Just to understand this, Anthony Hill came in a better situation. Jalen Ford and David Bender were multi-year, 2-year starters at that position. So Anthony Hill was able to come in and play some edge, make an impact in like a different role. And that way it slowly brought him along, and that obviously helped him. I don't know if Atkinson's in that spot, which he's not naturally. He's not a natural edge to begin with. If anybody in this linebacker class is, it's Kosi Akpala. And so Atkinson is an incredible athlete, but it's going to take time. You're not going to find much better tape in high school football right now. But like you said, it's an athlete first, football player second. It's going to take time. Anthony Hill had a couple of those older guys in the room to sort of help it. He didn't have to take immediate leadership. Now, Ty Anthony's not going to have that. He doesn't have Anthony in there. He doesn't have Leona. And so he's going to lean on Ty Anthony. He's going to have to lean on Elijah Bowe. And like you said, they are going to have to bring in, and it can't just be a guy. It can't just be, Sark loves to throw in at the last minute at the bottom of the roster, a guy that's like a best player available, depth piece that could help them, in a playoff run. No, brother, you're looking for a starter. You're looking for a guy that's got some skins on the wall, that understands run fits, that understands he's going to have to be in coverage some of the time. This is a big jump. I think Atkinson, he'll be on campus in 3 weeks. I think he's a kid that could burst and give you something as a freshman, but it's not the same situation that Anthony Hill came in.
Thinking out loud, only because I looked at some of the players available. You got Marshall Landwehr, and then that's about it. Maybe this is a Brady Sarkisian game. I don't think anybody wants this to be a Brady Sarkisian game. But that just speaks to how thin linebacker is right now, and what they're going to have to do against a Michigan team that really likes to run the football. We'll get to some notes that you posted just a few minutes before we got started over on Inside Texas. But before we do, got to show some love to Game Time. And you know what? College football still going on. We got some of the good stuff. It's not the great stuff because Texas isn't playing in it. But we got some good stuff. And, man, if you are a masochist and you want to go to Norman and College Station or you want to go to Oxford or Eugene or something like that, you got to get tickets through Game Time. Game Time app, gametime.co. This is the way to get tickets at the best price. I know college football playoff tickets are in demand, but you're not going to find better opportunities for tickets than with Game Time. You could see what your view will be like. You'll get to see the full all-in price. And of course, it's not just college football tickets. It's NBA, it's NHL, it's NFL, It's anything you want. You can get those tickets, concerts. Go to Game Time, gametime.co, promo code on3. Use that promo code and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Justin, you know those terms apply because you were able to make use of them not too long ago. You can vouch for it. I can vouch for it. Go to Game Time on 3, $20 off first purchase. And, of course, terms do apply. Looking at a couple of the good questions, Williams David, always bringing it. What's going on with Malachi Lee? Information, even in the modern era, travels slow from the 50th state. But I think that's a little bit by design. Sharon Moore's firing was just actually, let me take that back, because I don't think it was a shock to everybody, because apparently it was a pretty poorly kept
outside of Ann Arbor.
Right. Apparently it was a pretty poorly kept secret up in, the University of Michigan world. And it finally got out when, details, whatever. Still, again, long way from Hawaii to Ann Arbor, long way from Hawaii to Austin. This is a shocking thing. Sharon Moore was the only head coach, I believe, who went out to Hawaii. I know either Kyle Flood or Johnny Nansen.
Kyle Flood
went out there. Steve Sarkisian did not make it out to Hawaii during that recruitment. Hosted him on the visit. Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Texas, all involved, but chose Michigan in the end because Moore put in the effort. Now Moore's not there, and it sounds like Malachi Lee is kind of just biding his time at this point.
Yeah, he's, we got it tipped off a couple days ago that he was trending towards, getting out of his letter of intent because of the Sharon Moore stuff. A lot there's been a handful of players from the Michigan class that I believe have already done that. And that's the guy that all the fans have been talking about and talking to, because that's the kid that was probably one of the most naturally gifted offensive tackles in this class of 2026. If you're looking for a guy that could actually play offensive tackle as a true freshman, Malachi Lee's that guy. And so I think that's why fans got real frustrated with the whole Felix Ojo, Zayden Crimpen thing and didn't give enough of that love to Lee. I know this much. This is the last time I have to hear that Sharon Moore was the only person that went to Hawaii to see him, because I don't think that matters anymore. You know why it doesn't matter? Because that was he had two main contacts at Michigan. Sharon was one of them. The other guy took the O-line job, or took a job at Syracuse like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I believe his name was Coach Castile. And so they're being patient. Malachi's family is very, very, they're being patient. They're going to get through finals, and they want to figure out their best move next. They really want to see who Michigan hires. I think they like the idea that they did fall, in love with Ann Arbor and the opportunities up there. And so I think they want to, and that's what his dad told Adam Gorney and another source. And so I think that's where it's at right now. Lee is not going to make any irrational moves. This will be planned out if he does this. And so, and it'll be interesting because Texas was second on the list, and I believe Alabama was third. He is going to be one of the top free agents in all of the class of 2026. And so it's just something we're going to continue to monitor. Look, we've been asked about Malachi Lee for 6 months, and then we woke up Monday and we had a reason to talk about him, or Sunday, and we had a reason to talk about him. And now we're just going to continue to follow that. And David Williams, if you missed any of the updates, you know where you can find them. InsideTexas.com. You should come see us, brother. We miss you. We restocked the cooler. There's more Big Red in the game room now.
I think Michigan did have at least one. I know of an offensive lineman. I don't know about the rest of that class so far with Bear McWhorter. The tight end went to Tech, the Ludwig kid. Yes.
That dude is a player.
And he was from a mountain state, right?
He was from Montana or Idaho or something like that.
And then they had Bear McWhorter.
Bear committed, I think, Auburn yesterday.
Correct. And Auburn was the runner-up. And that's, these are just very, very good examples of why unless the kid burns the bridge, you don't burn these bridges in recruiting, because you never know who's going to hop into the portal.
Especially in this day and age.
You never know what coach is going to dip his pen in the wrong company ink. You never know anything like that, and you want to be able to pounce if it happens at the opportunity to get big players. And hey, you know who did that? Steve Sarkisian with Xavier Worthy with a Michigan signee. Worthy was disgruntled with Michigan, got out of his letter of intent. Steve Sarkisian built on the relationship he had started when he was at Alabama. Worthy said, you know what? I like those Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy and Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith types. I kind of, play like them. I got a little bit more foot speed. I think I can do great things in that offense. And here we are a few years later, go ahead and talking about Xavier Worthy. Granted, I know he's injured in the NFL and hadn't been great for the Chiefs.
That's a normal thing right now.
Yeah.
Because he still weighs 140 pounds.
Oh, man. Hey, if you can outrun him, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, until your own tight end clips you and you're out for 6 weeks.
I've seen a few comments, and Joey Austin, you're on there, and I think South KMX. I'm not there yet. I would be glad to be wrong.
We just talked about that.
Yeah. I'd be glad to be wrong. He has day one athleticism.
Yes,
as so many of these players do, but I am not quite sure yet if he's got day one linebacker ability for Texas as they play. I don't want to say like the tough part of their conference and even Ohio State's, but like there's a learning curve, and I am very, very hesitant to make this, and it'll be my second Malik reference in as many days. But like when Malik showed up at Texas, playing middle linebacker was not his strength.
No,
he was just not good at playing middle linebacker. He was great at playing in space and doing athlete things, but he was not really great at playing middle linebacker. That was a very different Texas where he had to play right away for a lot of different reasons. Atkinson and Malik, some similarities, some, not very many, just some.
Those are different players, different body sizes, different everything.
But,
if anything, Atkinson may have more suddenness, a little bit more of that quick twitch. Anthony's just a bigger boy.
And guys, Anthony Hill was special, but it took putting him in the right spot during his freshman year for it to work. He was still picked on.
Pounds.
And Anthony Hill showed up at 235, while Tyler Atkinson's maybe 210 right now. And I know these guys can balloon. I just,
they don't have the same situation. Anthony came in with Jalen Ford and David Benda already being established. He was in that room. He didn't have to take over that room. Tyler Atkinson's not coming into that situation. He's not an edge guy. Can Atkinson get after the quarterback? Hell yes. Watch the tape. But that's not his thing. Anthony Hill, as a freshman, could rush the passer. He could have been an edge, and that's why they utilized him like that. They're just different sizes, different takes. That's all. They can do similar things, but again, you're still going to have to get a starting linebacker. Atkinson may get on the field early. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, but they're going to have a guy that starts beside Anthony Smith right now. And Ryan Nelson made a point, that Texas didn't want Leona, that they were afraid he's an undrafted free agent, and Brad Spence can play linebacker. Texas wanted Leona. They don't care if you're an undrafted free agent. Texas does not care about that. If you can play in the league, you can play at Texas. Leona Lafau is 20 times the linebacker Brad Spence is. I don't even think it's the same. I think Brad Spence is an edge, to be honest with you. So let's not compare Brad Spence and Leona Lafau. Those two guys are not the same. Spence is an edge guy. Leona Lafau is a natural, instinctive inside linebacker, which are hard to find. Ryan, Brad Spence is not the answer. Not even close. He's going to have to be against Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. But after that, it's going to change.
Oh, man. Got a good super chat here from Zay Capella. Is Carlton a sleeper in this class? Dude's a dog. See, I've always been curious about how the news cycle kind of treats recruits, because in the current day and age, we flood the media sphere with all this information in June and early July with like official visits and recruiting. And then all these kids go play. They're happy with their commitment for the most part. They're happy with everything they agreed to. And then the season plays out. And then, efforts that continued throughout the season come to bear in the form of 3 straight visits. And so I don't think he's a sleeper. I think you can I don't want to say forget about a guy, but when he commits and the season happens and then the season starts, you're kind of like, okay, we'll come back to this. But no, and I think he's definitely someone who can fit into a role on the defensive line that Texas has made use of a lot over the past couple of years.
Yeah, no one's fallen asleep on what the number 5 or number 6 edge in the country Jamarian's been a known commodity, but he's going to need a red shirt. He's not a sleeper. He's going to need a red shirt. And guys, he's tilting towards playing the interior defensive line. That body, it ain't going in another direction. It's only getting bigger. And so he's going to slide inside. And he even talked about how, he if you wanted to see him play early, it would be like that sophomore year when he's on third downs rushing from the inside. That would be like an ideal thing for Jamarian. Definitely not a sleeper, but he's a guy that's going to need a red shirt. And that's why the beauty of Richard Wesley, because Wesley actually may get a few early run, not much, but a little bit. And Wesley's a year younger. And so they got younger in the edge department, but with a lot of upside.
And that'll lead to one other question I want to get to right after this. Got to talk about Roback. Roback.com, Texas 20, not Texas 20. Sorry, that's the old one. Got to use TX20, 20% off new customers. Get the high quality gear, whether it's got a Longhorn on it or not, whether it is their quarter zips, their joggers, their sweatshirts, their t-shirts, anything they've got. Roback has the good stuff. Go to Roback.com, TX20, 20% off for all new customers. I wish I were in it right now. It's in the dryer, and I'm going to use it as soon as I get the opportunity to. A couple good questions, and there was one, speaking of young edge room, that I wanted to get involved with. Where are we?
The one with JV and Hilson?
Yeah, we were actually texting about that. If I can find
it was a little bit higher up there.
There it is. I found it from AJJ. Would Texas have interest in JV and Hilson again, or is that bridge burned? And this will kind of coincide with another question from Carol. How does this agent university thing work in the portal? Eric wrote a great article this morning kind of detailing what's happening because who knows if rules exist, but relationships exist. And there can be agent personnel, agent coach relationships, that type of thing. All the schools are doing it. I don't think it's trying to cover anything. Everybody's doing due diligence on everybody. People are doing due diligence on Texas players. Texas is doing due diligence on other players. It's just how the system is these days. But Hilson, all these guys are announcing that they're going into the portal, and they can't officially enter in until the 2nd. And the only exception is they changed the rule. They changed the rules right after Gundy's firing or something like that. Like mid-season, they changed the rules so it's not immediate 30-day window. But I think Oklahoma State was the last 30-day window team.
So what is it now? I didn't realize it changed.
It is, I think for our purposes, it's that January 2nd. There's some weird thing about 5 days after a hire is finalized, but
like you said, there's no rules, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, they're making it up as they go, just like the committee did.
Yeah.
And we're just here for the chaos.
Yeah, no doubt. But trying to find the Hilson question really quickly. Texas was interested in Hilson. I think it was UCF, Florida State, and one more Southeastern Conference school aside from Missouri. I think this was a case where Missouri put the best effort in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
And he only played in 3 games this year. I'm curious maybe if you go to him for numbers, just because, like you had mentioned, Richard Wesley's 16 and he's a reclassification. You have, Jamarian Carlton could end up being someone who plays inside or has defensive tackle by his name. You want to make sure
probably not going to be ready.
Right. And you can, if you were able to put Hilson and Arogbo technically in the same class, it kind of makes sense. You kind of restock that buck position a little bit better. But a lot of it's going to depend on negotiations. A lot of it, and this speaks to everybody, it's going to depend on who actually jumps in. You can have Hayes Fawcett tweet out that, I'm intending to enter the portal. You could just never do it. And granted, exactly. I don't think
they can use the agent clause now. That's what I like to call it, where they can say, hey, I'm going into the portal. And that's when the agent actually starts to go to work. and they negotiate with the school, and they hope to get something done before that portal actually opens in January 2nd. And that said player has to actually enter it and try to find another place. It's a new little, with agents now, we saw it on National Signing Day, Joe. This is something in the future we're going to see more and more of. And it's your top 32 guys, your 5-star guys. A lot of them are not going to sign on National Signing Day anymore. They're going to wait. They've got a 72-hour window for that agent to try to suck as much money out of these programs as they possibly can. We just saw Chris Henry and Jalen Lott and a handful of guys pull it off. You're going to see more and more of that in the future. With Hilson, I'm with you. I think it's a depth play, but I actually agree with Ryan Nelson. I think you can do better. Like, I think there's more proven guys in the portal. And honestly, your best edge guys might be after they might be right up until that point. Like you want to see what the playoffs, you want to see what happens with this playoff. You want to see what happens with some of these teams as well. And when all the coaching stuff kind of gets settled down. And so, I mean, they could use a little bit of depth, but I don't like a kid that plays 3 games and then redshirts and sets out to like better his stock somewhere else. Like I don't think that's a good MO at all.
I don't know if that happened with him. Is
right, but that's kind of the
okay.
We've seen a few of those guys doing that, and it just never works out well when kids do that.
Yeah, more often than not, most of these guys want to play, and I don't know the Hilson situation off the top of my head. We do. I got to get to this, and Williams David brings up a good point. I'm not inferring Texas did not need players from the portal. But Coach Flood needs to do his job and develop the high-level recruits that have committed to Texas over the past 2 to 3 seasons. And, hey, I am 100% with you.
Amen.
But at the same time, there are portal needs. And, Justin, you had a little bit of insight on one that you posted right before we started this video.
Yeah, so look, Texas is going to bring in multiple guys on that interior offensive line. I could see 1 to 2 centers. I can definitely see 2 to 3 offensive guards and even a swing tackle that may be versatile enough to do both. There are going to be a lot of new guys with Gooseby and Brandon Baker being the incumbents coming back in the spring. They're talking to there's a kid out of Miami Northwestern. I think that's the same place that James Johnson played at, the 4-star signee Texas brought in 2026. He's an interior guy named Leggett out of Texas. He played at Texas State in this last year. Before that, he was at ULM Monroe. We know what GJ's doing over there in San Marcos. He's got guys over there, and it feels almost like a minor league in a sense, with Shipley being so valuable for Texas this year. They're going to look at all these guys, and I made the point. Texas has shown interest, but I actually think Auburn and Penn State have been on him a lot longer and are in that more. Just expect Texas is going to kick the tires on a lot of these kids. So when you see us posting stuff, a lot of times, Texas will reach out, but we don't know to what extent, how much they're going to push. I think Leggett's a good prospect. I'm not sure if he fits exactly what they're trying to get there, but I'm with David Williams, man. Hey, some of these guys, look, he doesn't get credit for Trevor Gooseby for some reason, and Christian Jones. He should. He brought those guys along and developed them and did a great job with those. There were other misses in the last 2 cycles that bore out pretty loudly this season. You got to have the best mix, guys. You got to have some freshmen that come in that want to get developed, that understand they have to wait their turn, and then you're going to have to get a couple veterans. That, to me, is the best offensive line you can put together in this new college football.
Yeah, I think he had too many guys play this season at critical spots, or only 5
that weren't ready,
that were half a year to 2 years away. And
Nick Brooks, I love Nick Brooks. He had no business being on the field.
And Connor Stroh was overmatched. Brandon Baker got there, but that may have been as a result of teams attacking the interior. We've belabored the interior offensive line point plenty, and we know that Texas is, because of missed evaluations and not getting the developmental timeline as fast as they'd like to do, would have liked for it to have been. They're going to have to get some more ready-made guys here in the transfer portal. And luckily, getting interior guys is a little bit more of an easier proposition than getting tackles, because you got to protect the franchise. It's a pretty valuable position in modern football, but it's a little bit different when you're looking at the interior, when you're looking at center, when you're looking at guys who honestly maybe played tackle at the G5 level, who are looking to take a step up and are like, I'm just willing to take a shot no matter where it's at, I'll play wherever. And then boom, you got a guy who is a guard who has the feet and athleticism, but maybe just different size. You can do a lot of things, I feel like, with offensive line in the portal. We haven't seen all that much of it here at Texas quite yet.
Has Sark brought in a portal O lineman?
I think only one for a visit, and that's just for a visit, maybe even two. And
remember there were two last year that were ready to come to Texas, and they said no, and Texas said no. One of them, I think, was an All-American guard at Oregon.
Pregnon.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what makes people so testy in that month of September around the facility, by the way, when you're letting All-Americans just walk away. But, yeah, Texas they've yet to go in the portal at O-line, period. And Flood he doesn't want to have to go to the portal. Flood thinks that'll affect his high school recruiting. He wants to continue to build up these guys, get them developed, because that shows that the process works. That shows that he's worth his value. And so you got to have a balance. And I feel good saying, I don't know what the team's going to look like next year, but I feel better that the offensive line is going to be a lot different looking than it was this last fall.
Also with offensive line, like, because you play 5 and you have to have at least 6, or you prefer to have at least 16, you're really not going to upset a balance like you would if you brought in like a portal quarterback to compete. We see all the different, like, there's only one on the field, and there's only, usually there's only one running back. And granted, the dynamics of that position are different. You're exchanging carries, but like, I think that's obviously very valuable in the high school sphere to be like, if you come here, I'm not going to try as hard as I can to, bring somebody else, and you're going to have all the opportunity. Yeah, well, you got to. Recruiting pitches are great, but you got to win games. Like, that's what you're paid to win games. You're paid, and you win games by recruiting from wherever they come from, no matter what they look like, no matter anything like that. Like, you're paid to win games, and to win games you recruit well. You're not paid to recruit well.
It's different now. It's just a different dynamic, Joe. It's changed so much in the last 5 years in front of our face. I can't wait to see what's the next change. It's an ever evolving thing, man. It's crazy. And I said it, and I know you're tired. You know how I'm tired of hearing Sharon Moore was the only guy to go see Malachi Lee. Listen, I'm tired of saying over and over and over again, yes, you're going to have a balance of these guys, but the best team in country is going to be the deepest. You know who's going to win the national championship this year? Who's the deepest team? If you can find that group, that's who you should put your money on. That's the new college football. It's like an NFL roster. They're still going to add players behind you, in front of you, and with you, regardless of how good you are, because they understand they're going to have to play potentially a 14, 15-game season.
And next year, they only have one bye. So that's just how the calendar works.
Conference schedule.
Yeah.
Cupcake November is no more.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's we're going to a different world here, and this is kind of talking about it as we get a little bit more.
I wonder if the committee's going to view that differently next year. I mean, I'm sure they're going to say it during their little Tuesday night interviews, but because we learned this year about the committee, they don't necessarily view the big wins. They view the bad losses. And so it'll be interesting to see how the committee does their whole thing next year.
Who knows how many teams they're going to have to pick, but hey, we're going to be covering all the efforts.
It's going to be like March Madness again, dude. Just let 68 in and let's rock and roll. Did you hear Joe Klatt the other day? Joe Klatt flat out said March Madness is a joke. He's like, you get 68 teams and you could be one and done on a neutral site, and you're a number 1 seed, a number 2 seed. What sense does that make? We love Joe Klatt at Inside Texas. I just thought that was interesting. So
it's a different sport, so it's just all college.
CBS knows what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's put it that way. Hey, 12 more? That's 6 more games. How many? You do the money on the math? Hey, what about 110 teams? Can you imagine how much playoff money you can make from 110 teams? I'm just saying, just throwing it out there.
We need to will this be Texas' first ever road trip to Toledo to play the MAC champion as an at-large team?
Let's do it, Joe. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh. If I'm not even going to speak that into existence. I'm just going to keep on going. We got to get out of here. So make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And of course, go to Inside Texas. Use that first link in our description. Sign up today for $1. Use that QR code there at the top left of the screen. Justin has portal intel up. We'll have a lot of different portal stuff here over the next few weeks. And then we'll have a game to talk about. So, Justin, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Portal Intel here on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.